Hi friends, it's Kim at Foggy Bonnet. Today I'm presenting a very simple diagonal window card. The inspiration for this card came from Lisa Curcio. She presented a similar card on her YouTube channel. Be sure to look Lisa up. She's a very talented designer. The card I'm going to demonstrate tonight is this one, same format. I'm going to show you how to make one of these that are split in the middle like this. And I used, for this card, for my demonstration card, I used the Dragonfly Garden bundle. It comes with the stamp set. You see here, dragonflies and some nice sentiments. There's a nice thank you in here. Thank you for your kindness. I chose to use For a True Friend. And I like the stamps in this set. They're kind of a finer line that's really pretty. And the punch that goes with this bundle punches out a dragonfly. How cute is that? Really nice. The paper is from, see, I have my sheet in here. The paper is from the Dandy Garden Designer Series paper pack that kind of coordinates with all this. I use soft suede ink, and I believe I stamped this with Mossy Meadow because that's what color cardstock I chose to use. This circle is embossed with the, which embossing folder? The Ornate Floral 3D embossing folder. And the circle was cut with the 2 1/4 inch punch. What else? The linen thread. So we'll talk about what I'm using as we go through the card. So, we ready to craft? Or watch me craft, I guess? Let's get started. All right. So I have all my pieces pre-made here. That way it goes a little quicker. All right, so I like to make these in a tent fold. So this is a 4 1/4 by 5 1/2 inch tent fold card. And you start with a piece of Whisper White, or now it's called Basic White cardstock, in 3 3/4 by 4 inches. You start with that. Then you need a strip of your Designer Series paper. And of course you want your cardstock, your card base, to coordinate with whatever you choose for your Designer Series paper. And this again is from the Dandy Garden. Did I finish giving dimensions? Okay, this is 1 1/2 by 6 inches. 1 1/2 by 6 inches, this strip of Designer Series paper. Then I cut the circle with the 2 1/4 inch punch, and I already embossed it with that Ornate Floral 3D embossing folder. And I stamped my dragonfly on Bumblebee cardstock. That's what color is in this Designer Series paper. And I stamped the dragonfly on it, and I cut them out, the small ones out from the Bumblebee also. All right, so we'll get started. I'm gonna lay this hopefully where you can see it while I'm creating. Get a few things out of the way. All right, so the first thing you want to do is cut your piece of 3 3/4 by 4 inch white cardstock in half on a, not in half, just cut it at a diagonal. There are no measurements, you just cut it in half. And you want to cut it, it's a little bit, I have this in portrait orientation, meaning it's a little bit taller. This is the 4 inch measurement. I'm going to cut across this way. So I'm going to put it in my little trimmer, and I'm just going to slice it. And I should mention, I like when this angle goes up this way. I didn't do this one in tent fold, by the way. I messed up today. I messed up a couple times today, but I do like them better in tent fold. But I like the cut to go low to high, from left to right. So when I put this in my trimmer, I just keep that in mind. I'm gonna go low to high. And again, no measurement, I'm just putting it in there at an angle and chopping it. Okay, so that's that. Now, I'm going to stamp on this Whisper White cardstock next, and I'm going to use my Stamparatus, and I'll show you why. I wouldn't necessarily need to, but because I'm using a stamp that bridges both of these pieces, I'm going to use my Stamparatus. And the stamp I'm using is this long wildflower stamp. So I'll pull that out. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to separate these so they're about how far apart they're going to be on the card, which is about 1 inch, and this is not exact. And the reason I wanted to do it this way is because I didn't want to distort this stamped image by stamping it when these were together and then pulling them apart. I wanted it to span the image, so, or to span the 2 pieces of cardstock. So I'm just going to lay these down, and I mean, I don't have to be real exact here. And then I'm just going to put my magnet on. And I broke my other long magnet, and I'll tell you what happened, and I warned people about this. This really happens. I had them kind of close together, and they snapped together, and one of them just shattered. I mean, I tell people about that all the time. I tell them not to hold their magnets too close together. That can happen, and sure enough, it did. So just be careful about that. They are very powerful magnets. So I'm placing the stamp. Am I on camera here? I'm placing the stamp so it's where I want it to be. And then I'm just going to pick it up with this plate. And I used soft suede. So I'm going to grab my ink and ink up here. Yeah, so they're calling for snow here. I guess probably Stacy has the storm now. It's moving across the country. And they keep edging up the amounts, the snow amounts. Last I checked, it was anywhere from 6 to 15 inches. So we're going to get to use that new snow shovel that we got for Christmas. All right, so I'm just going to press. There we go. Isn't that pretty? It's a real fine line stamp. I really like it. So it looks pretty good. So the rest of the stamping, I don't have to use the Stamparatus for, so I'm going to take it out of the way. Give myself a little bit of room to work. All right, so then I also used these, I'm not sure what these are. They might be dragonflies. Maybe they are. This little stamp that's also in this set. Multiple little dragonflies flying around, some kind of insects. And I stamped those up in the top part here. There's my reference. Same ink, the soft suede. And just kind of flying off into the sunset. There we go. And for the sentiment, I'm going to use the Mossy Meadow ink. Mossy Meadow. And I'm going to stamp the sentiment down in the bottom left area of the lower half of my cut cardstock. For a true friend. Okay, so I'm just putting it down here. No measurements, just there we go. And I'm going to clean this one off real quick. All right, so that's all the stamping, I believe, that I need to do here. Oh, no, I have one more thing. Almost forgot my dragonfly. So I'm going to stamp my dragonfly on the Bumblebee cardstock. And I'm going to use the soft suede. Forgot about my dragonfly. And I'm going to use, there are two versions of the dragonfly in here. One has a solid body. It'll fill in with ink. And the other one has an open, just a line drawing body. And I used the line drawing on this because I wanted more yellow to show. And that's the one I'm going to use again. I like that. And I have a clear block over here. Now, I want to just tell you something. When you're getting ready to stamp something that you're going to punch out, it's always good to kind of look at your punch and see which way the cardstock's going to go in. So, cardstock is going to go in from up here, and the image has the dragonfly tail down here. The punch has the dragonfly tail facing down. So when I stamp this, that's how I'm going to stamp it, kind of close to the edge with the tail pointing down. That way, when I go to cut it out, it's right where I need it to be. When I go to punch it with my punch, it'll be conveniently located on the cardstock. Does that make sense? Do I ever wet my chamois? Yes. They dry out eventually, and I clean mine once a week anyway. I just clean it in, Aunt Mary's talking about the Simply Chamois. Once a week, I take this to the sink and I wash it in warm, soapy water and, you know, squeeze it till it's pretty much clear water coming out of it. And I have been lately spritzing mine with a hand sanitizer that has an alcohol content. It's not a thick hand sanitizer. It's like a real thin liquid, and I spritz this with the hand sanitizer to kind of cut down on any germs or mold that might grow. And you can see I store mine in one of the thin stamp cases. You can buy these stamp cases at Stampin' Up. I don't have a reference number, but that's how I keep mine. And you can see I cut off little pieces of it. And I use these to just pick up if I want to wipe something off on my Stamparatus. I use that. So yeah. Yes, you have to re-wet them. They do dry out eventually. Okay, so stamp my dragonfly. There we go. And when I punch the big dragonfly out, the small one small one will cut out, and then I'll punch another small one as well. Okay, so then we'll cut this dragonfly out with a punch. And I kind of use the tail. There's always some reference point on every punch that I use, and on this one, it's the tail. And you can see I'm cutting a little one out at the same time. There we go. And then I'll go ahead and cut one more small one just down here from the corner. There we go. Whoop. He took flight. So the next part to our project is to adhere the top part of this sliced in half Whisper White cardstock to the top of the card front. And we're going to use Stampin' Dimensionals, lots of Stampin' Dimensionals. So I have mine here. And when you're putting your Stampin' Dimensionals on the back of this, you want to keep them about 1/4 inch away from the slanted edge, because we're going to have this piece up I have this backwards, up underneath there. You see how that looks on the finished card? So you don't want your Stampin' Dimensionals right up to the edge of this long diagonal cut. That'll make more sense as we're assembling this. So I'm just going to start putting these on. And I'm pretty generous with these because I want everything to be nice and stable on the card. And then as I get down closer to this edge, I'm just careful that I don't go too close because I want to leave that gap where I can slide in the diagonal piece of Designer Series paper. And just one in the middle for good measure. And then just take off your backing. Okay. So I think I have all these off. Noops, I forgot one right there. All right, so now we're going to adhere this to our card front. And what you want to do is you want to make the gap at the top equal to the gaps on the sides. And that's going to make it look nicely centered. So I'm going to place it on there. And that looks pretty good. Okay, so we have the top piece adhered. Now we want to adhere the center strip. And we're going to slide it under here and just put it just like that. And I'm going to use Stampin' Seal for this. And I'm not going to take it all the way out to the ends because as you can see, this hangs over and we're going to trim those ends off. So I'm not going to go all the way out to the ends with my Stampin' Seal. All right, so I have my adhesive on the back of my Designer Series paper and I'm just going to slide it under this top Whisper White. And what I'm going to look at to get it even is the edge of this, how far up it's coming on the sides. I want to make it even. So it looks about even, right? And I want to make sure I'm fully on the cardstock with both ends of this strip. There we go. And I just lay it down, give it a rub, and now I'm going to trim the ends off. Okay? And so you see I got out past the edge, but that's okay. I'm going to trim this off. I'm just going to take my paper snips and just follow along the edge of that cardstock. Snip it off. Turn it around and do the same thing on the other side. I feel like I'm probably off the camera half the time because my camera's up here further than it usually is. Okay, so you can probably guess what we do next. Next, we're going to adhere the bottom part of this, okay? And I think I had a wider piece. Nope, that's the same size. So we'll go back to our Stampin' Dimensionals. Now, this time it doesn't matter quite as much if I get close because I already have my Designer Series paper slid in where it needs to be. And this Designer Series paper is not so thick that it's going to make this sit crooked if I happen to get a Stampin' Dimensional on that. So, not as big a deal on this piece. So again, I'm pretty generous because I don't want any saggy elements on my card. You want to line up your edges as well. You know, you don't want to have this too far off from where you have the top one. I have my top piece over to the right a little bit, so I'll do the same with the bottom piece because I don't want it to look like it's off too much from the top piece. And there we go. Just like that. And then I'm going to adhere my big dragonfly to my embossed circle. Actually, I'm going to pop him up on dimensionals. Just put him on. And then I'm going to put some linen thread behind him. And I'm going to use my secret weapon. You'll see it here in a second. So this thread, when you first take it off the spool, is a little curly. So I just pull on it a bit, get it to relax. And then I'm just going to wrap a couple times around my hand, like so. Make sure I have that. Yep. And cut it. And okay, here comes my secret weapon. I want to make sure I put this the right way. You ready for my secret weapon? Ta-da! Sometimes I use glue dots to do this, but if I just want to get it all tacked down in one fell swoop, I use Scotch tape. My secret weapon. And you can too. I won't tell anyone. There we go. Just like that. Oh, I put it on the wrong, oriented the wrong way. I want it to be going that way. There we go. Okay, and so finally, I really don't have enough of that sticking out. I'm not happy with that. This is a do-over. I was so excited about sharing my secret weapon. I didn't have big enough loops to have it. I want it to stick out from behind that circle more. Yeah, that's better. Okay. So if I flip this, I want it to go this way. So I flip it over. Need to lay it like that. Okay. I think do-overs are just a part of card making, right? And I'll use that other piece somewhere else. There, I like that better. Okay, so then I'm going to put a couple of Stampin' Dimensionals right in the middle here to pop him up so he's not laying flat on that card. And let's see, I'm actually going to put those on the card base itself. I find that easier to do. There we go. And then last but not least, I'm going to adhere my baby dragonflies. I'm going to put just a little drop of glue down and stick them on that way rather than using, I'm not going to worry about this glue squishing out because they're big enough that if the glue squishes a little bit, it's not going to squish out. So I'm just going to pop him on there. And I'm letting him go off the edge of the cardstock. That creates interest. And this one too. If he'll reach. I think he will. Yep, just like that. A little bit of glue did sneak out there. I probably had a little too much. So there's the card. A pretty simple technique that it looks fancy, doesn't it? With that diagonal cut through the middle. Where are my other samples? Oh, here they are. You can see you can get a lot of different looks with just the same technique, just using different papers, different stamps. Kind of fun, right? Thank you for watching today. If you liked the video, please give me a thumbs up and remember to subscribe so that you can check back in easily on my YouTube channel. I try to upload at least one video per week. I'm Kim Ray. I'm an independent Stampin' Up! Demonstrator, and I'll see you again next time. Bye-bye.